The case of a teenager taken from his mother by the state is driving debate this week. DHS took custody of a 17-year-old with leukemia after his mom had reportedly decided to try more natural treatments rather than chemotherapy. It got the attention of State Senator Shane Jett, the chairman of the Oklahoma Freedom Caucus, and it has others now discussing the line between protecting kids and protecting the rights of parents to raise kids as they see fit.
They should not be making medical decisions for children. Honestly, that's a parent's God-given right.
The state of Oklahoma, DHS, can only get involved with a family if a parent is alleged to be unfit.
Senator Shane Jett joining us here in studio this week for Oklahoma Chronicle. Thanks for being here. Nice to see you.
Yeah, it's good to be back.
This issue, you said you've been working on this thing nonstop for days now. This has been a big thing that's fallen into your lap, and it has a lot of people taking a lot of notice of it.
Yes, we got a phone call on Friday afternoon saying that a woman that we knew, a friend of the family, Dana Mooney, was basically being subjected to medical kidnapping, and that's how our afternoon started on Friday. And so what had happened is the anonymous phone tip line for DHS was used to raise accusations against the family, many of which were false, and so it had weaponized that system to notify the media, or I'm sorry, notify DHS that there was medical neglect, which was not true.
Right, because basically what the state is saying is that they've had to step in because they do not agree with the cancer care treatment that has been put forth by this teenager's mother.
That's right.
What is not correct by what is? I mean, was the teenager getting care at the time? Or?
Yes. So Preston is a 17-year-old boy, just turned 17 last month, and had been diagnosed about 18 months ago with leukemia, and it was at University of Oklahoma Children's Hospital, and was going through chemo. Chemo wasn't giving the results that they wanted. It was the research into it was also whether it was the best course of action for his particular type of cancer. So the family opted to get a second opinion, which is their right. And so they pursued another course of action according to their doctor's recommendation, and so they'd been pursuing that. And so the doctor who had been contacted by the DHS, who signed off on concerns about the well-being of the child, hadn't seen the child in over a year, and so they went to a judge and got an order for emergency custody of a minor. Showed up on a Friday afternoon, and that's important because what we've discovered is that is a typical MO for DHS to do on a Friday afternoon, because it's hard to get an injunction to stop it.
On a weekend.
That gives them a full 48 hours to do whatever they want to that boy.
Can I ask you, what does the 17-year-old want with this?
A 17-year-old wants to go home. And understand, Evan, whenever the DHS worker showed up for Signs of Life 5 days earlier, the boy was in the backyard with his stepdad mowing the lawn. He was living his best life and pursuing the health options of the mother. So,
what this case has done, because I know we can get very specific about it, but on the larger picture, it's really brought up the larger issue of parental rights, privacy, all of that stuff, and where the state has the right to step in if they don't like the way you are parenting with your child. And my question was with this, because do you agree that there has to be some sort of line that is drawn, that a parent can't do just whatever a parent wants when it comes to the
Absolutely, but the bar has to be beyond, we disagree with a medical protocol that your family has chosen. So it's medical neglect. And what happens when you buck DHS, they start looking for other charges to bring against you. So now they're looking at physical neglect. The problem is that they chose the wrong family to run over this time, because the Mooney family is very well known and very well respected in the legislature. So we began contacting the governor's office. We reached out to DHS immediately because we have Jeffrey Cartmel, who is the new assigned director of DHS. But this is a 50-year problem that he has been assigned to clean up. And he is a professional. I've known him for a long time. But to drill down into that labyrinth and where they always double down and protect themselves. And here's the problem: is DHS brings request bills to increase privacy, ostensibly to protect the privacy of the child. But what we discover is they're actually being used to protect themselves for wrongdoing. And there's also state statute suppresses any of the court activity, so you can't discuss it. That also creates this shroud of secrecy, so they can
because
continue to do
this
what
is
they're
a
doing.
minor, they say, and
That's
so we
right.
don't want to talk about this in the public because this is a child.
That's right.
And deserves privacy. Well, I'll be interested to see exactly, obviously, where this goes, and I know that you have a lot of people that are reaching out to you that are very concerned about this.
Absolutely.
And so we're really interested in that. I do, though, I want to make sure I spend enough time to talk to you about your Oklahoma Freedom Caucus.
Oh, certainly.
Which you are the chairman of.
That's right.
And it is growing right now.
It is.
How do you describe the politics? Because I've heard it described as right wing.
Oh, yes.
Do you agree with that? And certainly you would say you are the most conservative bloc of the state legislature?
We are the most closely aligned to Oklahoma's core conservative voters. And so the leadership and the Daily Oklahoman love to call us far right, radical. What we're radical about is making sure taxpayers at the Capitol, their interests are being reflected, and the lobbyists or the state agencies don't get to run request bills without consideration how that impacts our voters back home. So those who would call us far right would also call the overwhelming majority of Oklahoma voters far right, and nothing could be further from the truth. They want to keep their money that they make. They want to be able to have autonomy to make decisions what's best interest of their children. They don't want the state to run over them. So if you're for freedom, then that must be far right. At the end of the day, we are, I believe, an educational arm, and you can see the success of the Freedom Caucus after one session where we have members who are starting to present bills on the Senate floor and literally will open up their argument with cues from the questions we've been asking both in committee and on the floor. And so they'll stand up and say, members, this does not grow state government. That statement would have been made after we, the Freedom Caucus, come in with principle over politics, principle over personality. We focus just on the legislation. Does it grow government? Mm-hmm. Does it shrink government? Does it expand individual liberty? Does it reduce? And so we're
you're
using
drawing
those
very
principles.
hard lines using those principles when it comes to the legislation.
We're holding ourselves accountable to legislate like we campaign. And so if you look at, you have the CPI has a ranking on seeing if someone's conservative based on data, not opinion, not on identifying. You can't identify as a woman and magically become one. You can't identify as Freedom Caucus member or say you're conservative if the data doesn't show it. So we're holding them accountable, but we're also educating them so that they have the intel on the front end of a vote if it violates some of their principles.
Let me ask you about, I mentioned it was growing. You're up to what, 9 members in the state Senate?
At least.
At least.
Yes.
9 members that you can outwardly say. So you're saying that there are people that are in this Freedom Caucus
Absolutely.
that have not come out as being
if you will.
in the Freedom Caucus.
Certainly.
Okay.
And we also have members who are...
Why don't they just say, yeah, I'm with these guys?
Okay, so there is the House Freedom Caucus in the United States Congress that's holding their members in D.C. accountable to legislate like you campaign. It was so successful, and Donald Trump came out and said, Freedom Caucus are my people, leave them alone.
Right.
And so it was so successful they pivoted to the state because the state is really the vanguard of protecting individual liberties across the United States.
And so
we now have 13 Freedom Caucuses around the United States. Ours was founded last year.
You mentioned the membership, and we got less than a minute here, but I want to talk about the leadership. You said the leadership, like we're talking about Republican leadership. That when you're saying the leadership, you're talking about Republican leadership calling you far right.
Yes, air quote.
So
Republican.
There's tension there.
Yes.
They don't like the fact that this is growing?
No, because it's all about concentration of power.
Because at the leadership level, they can, whoever's in charge of the committees, they can decide where we are, what bills come forward. And last year, I know that you did not have probably as many bills go up to a final vote, as many bills get signed by the governor as you probably would have liked, you and your members in the Freedom Caucus.
Absolutely.
Would you agree with that?
That is correct.
Because it wasn't a big number.
No, and what they do is they take the legislation that we run that they like and they give it to incoming freshmen without telling them they stole it from us to begin with. So our policies are getting across the finish line, but you're exactly right. They concentrate and they try to rob people of credit for the work they do so that they can control the narrative. But the real problem is those who have the lowest conservative rating are over the chairmanships, and they get to refuse to hear bills that are grassroots that appeal to all of the red meat Republicans across Oklahoma. And so we elect people who say they're conservative, but the truth is they don't legislate accordingly. And I'm using the word trans-Republican now. They identify as Republican. They don't actually like Republicans. They're not actually Republicans. They want to use Republican bathrooms and take things away from Republicans.
Okay.
But they're just trans-Republicans.
You paint quite the picture. Senator St. Jett, we appreciate the time. We'll look forward to seeing what happens in the upcoming session.
Thank you, Evan.
Thank you.